With that, I'll go around the room for people to introduce themselves.
Marion Hocam.
Dave Lasco, city engineer.
Nick Dooms, design engineer.
Jay World, District 1 Alderman.
Scott Kelly, alderperson.
Okay, and with that, I'll call the meeting to order. Item number 2 is preliminary resolutions for curb and gutter, sidewalk, permanent street surfacing, and concrete driveway approaches at 150, 160, 161, 170, and 171 15th Avenue South. Dave?
Well, we've had this, I guess it started back in September of 2012. The curb is sunk and it's been overlaid, and the committee met on it, recommended 50% rate on the curb for the property owner, and then we met on it again late in 2012. In 2013, by the time we got inspections and got it back on the burner again, I sent a letter with a waiver of public hearing to the two property owners, and only one property owner sent it back. So we can't repair curb and then charge special assessments unless the property owners sign the waiver of public hearing. So,
Before you go any further, is this south or north?
oh, it's north. Did I put south?
Yeah, it's always, it says south,
Oh,
but it should be north.
It should be north, yeah.
Change that.
Okay,
Yeah.
no, I'm sorry, but
Yeah, so that's where we are. Without the property owner signing off, the only way we can repair the curb and charge special assessments is next go to a public hearing. We added in the other side of the street, 3 properties, just in case we run into problems, so we can make sure we do the street right and we don't have to go back in again.
Right.
So this is the preliminary resolution. This puts us, just everybody on notice that we're going to a public hearing. And then we'll hold a public hearing probably sometime in summer after the other side of the curb is inspected.
The work will be done this year.
Yeah, in 2014, yeah, if we have the hearing, we can't do anything until we have a hearing and a final resolution from council.
and then that final resolution, it'll say who pays what percentage.
Right,
of
and
everything.
well, at the public hearing, there'll
Yeah.
come a recommendation from Public Works
Right.
if there's gonna be a break on price, if you're gonna stay with the 50%
Mhm.
charge for curb and gutter.
When's that determined? When do we, okay, you go to the hearing. At the hearing, we're gonna state what percentage. When do we determine the percentage? Is it gonna
Well,
be
when you
50%?
approve this, we'll give you the standard rates, and if you wanna give the people a break because it's sunk, that's up to the committee. You've already committed to those 2 properties, a 50% rate on the curb and
Oh,
gutter.
all right.
But once the snow melts, we'll get more information, a long time before the public hearing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments by anybody? If not, committee, I'd entertain a motion at some
I'll
point.
move that we accept this proposal and have a hearing in the summer.
Preliminary resolution.
Right.
Mhm. Yes, I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, committee will vote on motion. All those in favor respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Item number 3, that's preliminary resolution. Sidewalk and concrete driveway approaches on 23rd Avenue South, north of Gainer Avenue at parcel 34-04503.
Okay, what I handed out is, in red is the sidewalks in the area of it'd be north of Gainer Avenue on 23rd Avenue. We had a project to reconstruct 23rd Avenue between Bowles and Wickham this summer, and it came to our attention that one property on 23rd between Bowles and Gainer doesn't have sidewalk. And I guess we're proposing it to the committee. We've discussed it a number of times through the years to try to fill these gaps in. So then we would go to public hearing to do that one property, and then there'd be sidewalk the whole length of 23rd Avenue. I believe most of the sidewalk went in when those apartment buildings were constructed, there was a federal rule that the funding the property owner got required him to put sidewalk in.
Great job. I'll make a motion for the primary resolution for the sidewalk here on 23rd Avenue South.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to, for a preliminary resolution, that's for the sidewalk on, fill in that gap there,
Yeah.
on 23rd north of Gainer. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor respond by aye. Opposed, ayes have it. Item number 4, that's asking permission to request bids for the 2014 curb and gutter and sidewalk contract.
Okay, that's our usual curb and gutter installation, curb and gutter maintenance, and sidewalk maintenance contract. Well, we've split it up these last few years. The next item will be just concrete pavement patching. We figure we get better bids if we don't bind them together, because then we can get, we've gotten bids the last few years from Treeweiler that only wants to come in, quick, get the pavement patched and leave. So I know there's been requests from our little contractors every time to have a little maintenance contract. We tried that one year and nobody bid. So this contract will require the contractor to have a curb machine. And the other reason we don't want to go to a little maintenance contract is we've been working our city crews more and more into patching little curb and sidewalk. They've been doing that more and more every year, so we don't really need a little contract. We're trying to utilize our own crews. So that's where we are on this is our yearly contract. And there's a memo in the handout of the projects.
Yeah, I was gonna ask if everybody had that.
They should have. You got a copy, Chad, of that everybody should have got in their mailbox, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Were those that we just talked about, be part of that bid?
Yeah.
If we're gonna do this in the summer,
Right, or they would be done under that contract.
so they would be included in.
Yeah.
And the proposed schedules here, asking for bids, and then the 21st at the council would be approve permission to ask, and April 1st would be to open bids, and April 15th would be the council awards the contracts. So I guess a 4-step process.
And we listed the projects there that'll,
Mhm.
I'd move to grant permission to
Yes, I'll
request
second it.
bids for curb and gutter and sidewalk contract. Any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Committee, all those in favor respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Item 5 is a permission to request bids for the 2014 concrete pavement patching contract.
yeah, that should be laid out on the memo. That'd be the same timetable, basically. And the big project, we want to finish up the expressway between 12th and 16th. And then we'll move on to another street. We've been working on the expressway probably the last 10 years, coming all the way up from City Hall, all the way around, patching. Some of our partial depths are already starting to fail.
Mhm.
Well, they're around 10 years old, so getting near 10 years old, some of the partial depths. But this would finish up the expressway to 16th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second to grant permission to request bids for 2014 concrete pavement patching contract. Any questions by anybody? Hearing none, committee will vote. All those in favor respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes. Item 6 is permission to request bids for the 2014 asphalt paving contract.
That's our annual paving contract. Because of state statutes, the county, Wood County can't bid like they used to. So American Asphalt has been the only bid we've received for, I think, the last 2 or 3 years since that state act, so. Last time I checked, our asphalt prices have gone up 38% over those years. But I guess we don't have any other options. We have to bid this out as a public works project.
That's sad. I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second to grant permission to request bids for the 2014 asphalt paving contract. There's no further questions. Committee will vote. All those in favor respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Item 7 is permission to request bids for casing pipes installed under the Canadian National Railroad at 17th Avenue South.
Just to give a little bit of background, we had a water main break near the tracks on 17th Avenue South. And so we're gonna need to replace the water main going underneath the tracks. Canadian National requires us to install a casing pipe around the water main. So we're gonna bore and jack a new steel casing pipe underneath the tracks to encase around the water main. And while we're doing that, we actually have a 30-inch clay storm sewer that also runs underneath the tracks that's undersized and cracked and in pretty rough shape. So we're looking to replace that as well. And we're gonna use our steel casing pipe as our actual storm sewer main on that as well. So we're actually in the design phase with that and working on soliciting bids from soil boring contractors at the moment. So we're kind of in the works with the project, but sometime soon here we'll be looking to request bids for the project.
So you're looking to permission to request bids on this.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
A motion and a second to grant permission to request bids for casing of pipes installed under the CN Railroad at 17th Avenue South. Any further questions by anybody?
How soon can that be done?
Well, the main thing is working with Canadian National. We're hoping to have borings done within the next few weeks here on it. From there, it's just a matter of getting the design done and the railroad permit that we'll need to get for the construction of that. It can take time. They're kind of notorious for that. So I guess we're kind of at their disposal. So we'll see how that goes. But hopefully sometime early spring we should be able to solicit bids.
Any other questions by anybody? Hearing none, committee will vote. All those in favor, did you have something, Scott? Hearing none, committee will vote. All those in favor respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Item 8 is permission to request bids for LED rapid flashing beacon at 10th Avenue and West Grand Avenue, and additional detector loops on the east leg of State Highway 54 and County W intersection.
Okay, both of these items are in the 2014 budget. The flashing beacon is for the West Grand pedestrian safety project. It was determined that on the vertical post, we have overhead flashing LEDs. We're gonna put a rapid flashing beacon on the vertical post on both sides to better inform the driver that there's a pedestrian crossing there.
Good.
And then the detector loops at 54 and County W, apparently they weren't put in long enough, and we've got 2 signs there by Home Depot that say stop here, but for some reason people coming in from Grand Rapids will stop about a car length short. Not always, but then they call us and say the signal's broke, so we go out there and everything's working.
It's just not turning, changing.
Yeah, they're not pulling out far enough.
No.
Yeah, the signal doesn't know they're there, so we're gonna put a couple more of those. Our new system now is hockey puck wireless detectors, and we'll put some of them back further, so if they stop short, we'll still pick them up.
You see you're sitting out there all night, long time in the evening.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I will move to, that we grant permission to request bids for the flashing beacon lights on 10th and West Grand and for the additional detector loops on 54 and W intersection.
I'll second it.
Any further questions by anybody? Hearing none, we'll vote committee. All those in favor respond by aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, ayes have it. Item 9, review and recommend approval of a quote for a soil investigation required by the CN Railroad at 17th Avenue South.
Again, this is that same project. We have, we're required to do soil borings and get a geotechnical soils report to help us with our design for our boring and jacking underneath the tracks. So we solicited bids from 4 different soil boring contractors, and our lowest bidder was approximately $3,600, which I believe was at least $1,000 cheaper than the next contractor, and that was from Newman Testing Services, and we reviewed all the proposals, and we're recommending approval of the quote from Newman Testing Services for approximately $3,600.
I'll make that motion
I'll second,
to approve that quote for the $3,600.
I'll second it.
Anything else, Maria?
Why would they have to know about the soil underneath the tracks?
There's a few things, the type of soils, the depth of the groundwater, bedrock, that all kind of plays into what we can do with pushing our casing pipe in underneath the tracks and cave-ins, and are we contending with bedrock, and can we do what we want to do, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Well, while you're doing that, replacing all that, you'd be doing the same thing, wouldn't you? That would kind of come together with that, wouldn't it?
I guess I don't understand.
When you're doing this, you're up here.
Well, it's so you would know what to anticipate when you're pushing the casing pipe.
Yeah.
So they're worried about their track falling in if we don't know what's in there when we're pushing the casing pipe.
Yeah.
This soil borings will let us know, hey, there's a rock there or something you gotta watch out for. Otherwise, they'll just keep pushing and maybe
Yeah.
something will happen and their track will collapse. That's why they want the.
Well, now, we're gonna redo that, aren't we, down there? And-
Yeah, I guess there's no casing pipe in there right now. We're pushing in a brand new casing pipe.
So you'd
underneath the
actually
tracks.
like that done before you would do it?
It's all part of the work. We push the pipe in through the steel pipe,
Mhm.
and then we install the utility inside the casing pipe then from there. So it's all part of the same
Yeah, it
project.
would almost be the same, add
They're
on
just
together.
worried that as you're pushing the pipe through, you have like a drill bit on the front of it
Mhm.
that starts to excavate at the soil and rock, and they're worried, about having a cave-in near the tracks and that sort of a thing. Just gives us a better idea as we're designing of what we're gonna be dealing with. Is it possible, or,
Mhm.
they give us recommendations for the design and construction, so.
Is your question more, how is that different than number 7?
I think that was
Yeah.
a question, the difference
They're
between.
one and the
Seven-
same?
Not-
No,
not
well,
9
seven
and
is, 7 is requesting, the permission to request bids
Oh,
for the construction of the project, and 9 is more just being able to approve the lowest quote that we had from our soil. This is soil borings. It's not the actual construction. It's
No.
It's
literally
soil
just
investigation,
soil-
right?
it's right. So they'll do 4 soil borings and they'll give us a report of recommendation. So it's not the actual construction. It's just to help us with our
Yeah,
design
it's actually something that should be done before you construct.
before we
Right.
start.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Maybe the numbers should have been reversed.
Yeah, right.
Maybe
Right,
maybe
yeah,
that would make more
sense.
sense.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
cardinal worse.
Yeah.
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 We have a motion and a second.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. If there's no further questions or comments, the committee will vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the ayes have it. Item 10, that's to review the proposed TMDL stormwater regulations for the Wisconsin River.
So, we set up a brief presentation for everybody to get everybody caught up on kind of what's been going on with the DNR and their Wisconsin River TMDL and some of the things that the city is looking to have to face in the next few years with new regulations from the DNR. So we kind of threw this brief presentation together to get everybody caught up. This slide is just showing the general area of the Wisconsin River TMDL. This is the whole drainage basin from the Wisconsin River headwaters up by the UP all the way down to Prairie du Sac. It's over 9,000 square miles of drainage area, and the two main sections that the DNR is interested in is the Petenwell flowage and the Castle Rock flowage. Just to briefly explain what a TMDL is, TMDL stands for Total Maximum Daily Load. It's the amount of pollutant that a stream, a river, or any water body can receive before exceeding water quality standards. The pollutant that the DNR is interested in with all of this is phosphorus. And the reason being that it drives algae blooms in the river, especially at the Castle Rock and Petenwell flowages. And this is what the DNR is trying to get at with these new regulations and with all their modeling and everything. So phosphorus, again, that's what they're trying to get at. This is just kind of from some samples that they took in the late 90s of phosphorus concentrations going down the river, starting at Merrill and going down to Petenwell, and just kind of what they observed. You can kind of see the high points near Nakusa with phosphorus in the river. And again, the TMDL, what they're trying to do is get they have a certain amount of phosphorus that's going into the river right now, and they're trying to get it down to the point of where they can meet their water quality standards, that they can get rid of the algae blooms and kind of create a better environment for the river. Some of the culprits with the phosphorus, there's you see the picture of the farm on the left. Landscapes, farm fields, cow manure, runoff into streams. That's probably one of the biggest culprits. But also on the right, you see waste load allocations. You have municipal wastewater treatment plants. You have industrial wastewater that is discharging into either tributaries or into the Wisconsin River. And then you have stormwater discharges that come from the city itself. Kind of what the DNR is trying to do, right now they're in the process of, they're just starting to model this whole system. For the past few years, they've been doing monitoring. They monitor the water quality, they monitor the stream flow, the river flow, and they're trying to get an idea of right now what is in the system for phosphorus, where are we at right now, and then they can take that and decide, all right, what level do we need to get it to in order to get the water quality that we're looking for. This is showing some of the monitoring stations that the DNR has, in the river basin. You can see there's 13 monitoring stations along the river itself. There's 16 along the tributaries, and then there's 19 within the different reservoirs along the river. And what will the TMDL do? what they're looking to do is set up new water quality standards. That's the gist of all this. It's just a matter of how they're going to do it, how they're going to allocate, who's responsible for cleaning it up and whatnot. That's what is still kind of up in the air, and the DNR hasn't really wanted to talk about a whole lot at this point. This slide is showing the different MS4s. Those are just communities that have stormwater discharge permits with the DNR that discharge within the Wisconsin River Basin. You can see them, all of them listed here, and so far it's kind of, this hasn't been said yet, but this is what we believe is, these are the entities, I guess, that are going to be responsible for cleaning up the phosphorus, for discharging less phosphorus. And again, this is nothing official that the DNR has come out and said, but this is what we believe is going to be, these are the municipalities that are going to be responsible for cleaning it up, from best we can tell. And as far as how they're allocating what, how much phosphorus gets cut out from each area, they're using what they call a proportional allocation method. In other words, if you have an area that discharges, say, 10% of the phosphorus to the river, as of now, they will be able to discharge 10% of the new smaller amount of phosphorus that the DNR determines is needed to get to their water quality limits that they have set up. So, how will stormwater waste load allocations be incorporated into the permits? They've given us a little bit of information. We've kind of heard rumblings about what's going to be passed down to the different communities. It looks like with the permits that we have with the DNR that they'll just be revised to have a larger amount of suspended solids that are going to need to be reduced out of our stormwater discharges, and phosphorus as well. And it's all going to be based on a percent reduction from, based on if there were no controls provided. Exactly how is the city going to do it? Again, it's something that, we're kind of in the early stages yet, and there are a few different options that we have on being able to cut phosphorus from our discharge. One of them being, which not shown up here, but we can infiltrate more water. If there's phosphorus in our stormwater, we can infiltrate it and it won't have any effect on the river. That's one option. We can build more ponds and have more suspended solids that are taken out of the stormwater in order to, the idea being that phosphorus is attached to these suspended solids, and if you drop out the solids, you'll be dropping out the phosphorus as well. That's another possibility. And then these two up on the slide here, adaptive management is another option that communities have. What this consists of, in a real general sense, is communities that don't have the money, or maybe it's more advantageous to go about it this way. They can spend money and essentially pay farmers to change or modify their practices on what they're doing, whether it's how they spread their manure, if they have buffers set up between streams and their farm fields, just different kinds of things like that. And essentially, the community is paying for a farmer to do that. So that's one option. Another option is water quality trading. And this is basically, the DNR doesn't care how you get to the amount of phosphorus that they're telling you to get to discharge to the river. They just care that it's done. So if you want to trade with another entity, say NewPage, if they have a smaller amount of phosphorus that they're discharging out in the river than what we do, and they're way below their limit, we could possibly pay them to remove phosphorus from their discharge and make up for what we're lacking with our discharge. So that's called water quality trading, and that's kind of another option that some communities are kind of leaning toward, as it's a lot cheaper than putting in detention basins and making changes to your treatment plants and that sort of thing. And lastly, kind of the schedule for everything. The DNR is saying that by 2017, they're going to be finished with their modeling, and they're going to have the new TMDLs determined. At that point, whenever a community has their first cycle of their discharge permit comes up after 2017, they'll be required to evaluate what options they have, come up with a plan on how to meet the new TMDL requirements. And then from that point on, the next permit cycle after 2017, each community will be required to basically come up with, actually be able to, they'll have to comply with the new TMDL limits. So you have some time in which you're able to comply, and I'm not sure what our permit, I'm not sure if you know, Dave, what our, with the permits, how, if they're 2-year permits with the DNR on our stormwater permits, or what that is, but,
It's at least 2 years. I don't think
Okay.
we've been back to committee for a while. I
okay.
didn't check one.
So it'd be in past 2020 before we'd be able to, before we'd have to comply with the DNR's new regulations. So that's kind of the timeline of everything, and I guess that's kind of a crash course in where we're at up to this point. But right now we have, we're a member of the Stormwater Coalition, the North Central Wisconsin Stormwater Coalition. So we're keeping tabs on everything, and working with the DNR and kind of monitoring where things are going from here. But it's still pretty early with the DNR doing their modeling and everything. We still got a few years before this comes down the pike, but it's something that we're keeping an eye on anyways. So that's kind of where we're at.
David, this is the same, same as what wastewater's been talking about.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
that's-
It's the same thing.
Same thing, they're on the
Phosphorus
same,
removal
right,
and that, so.
right. Yeah, when the wastewater plant comes up for their new permit, the DNR is gonna set a new limit on phosphorus.
And in the meantime.
So when is that permit?
It's this year, isn't it?
Yeah, this
Yeah,
year.
yeah, so where they would have, treatment plant will get, set a new limit
Right.
yet. So we're not totally looking down the pike
Right.
necessarily.
Right,
As
yeah.
far as whether-
DNR is
because
gonna
of that-
arbitrarily set one, I guess, now, and then later the TMDL will come
Yeah.
in.
And probably change the rates again at
Yeah.
that point.
In the meantime, do we have any idea how much it's gonna cost to do anything like this?
It's a good question. It can be pretty pricey from what we've been hearing. DNR's been, on some of the prior TMDLs, there was one with the Rock River and there's one with the Fox River in Wisconsin. And some of the communities were forced to double their suspended solids removal from 20% to 40%. And that can be, I mean, the city spent a lot of money to get where we are now.
Yeah.
And you're talking about virtually doubling the amount of suspended solids you have to remove and the amount of phosphorus that you have to remove. So it can be substantial.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, we built 3 ponds and we're working with Tom Sparhawk for the 4th
Yeah,
one.
right.
That gets us up to about 23%. So we'd be putting in at least 4 more or more ponds to get us up to 40.
And to find a place for it,
Yeah, we're pretty much out of
Yeah.
easy places to put ponds
Right.
now, yeah.
yeah. It's easy for them to say, but to get it
Right.
done.
right, costs a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So where does that, I guess, for the committee, this was a review.
I think more
And I
just
appreciate going over it. We had the
Yeah.
handouts, but I appreciate you going through it.
right, I don't think we're, no action or anything like that. We're
No,
just,
no,
just so everybody's up to speed, I
you have
guess.
to remember.
Right.
I guess, wastewater will be continuing their discussions with it, so
Yeah.
you'll all be, I guess, kept up to speed on what comes out of that. And we'll see where we go from there. Anybody have any other comments or anything? Okay, let's move on to item 11. And that's to review the proposed 2014 Public Works project schedule. We're really getting there with this weather that we've had.
Well, last year we didn't start till late April, but the year before that, we were constructing mid-March. So.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, we're anticipating April sometime with our project that we have with the DOT on First Street to resume, and Integrity is the contractor on that, and anticipating that work will end near the end of June, early July. Our mainline crew, we're looking at starting on Clavine Avenue, also in April, depending on weather pending. And from there, moving on to 17th Avenue North, and starting in early May, and that project ending in early August. The next major project we have is 10th Street from Peach to Saratoga, and that would be middle of July to early October. Oak Street from 3rd to 4th, and 4th Street from East Grand to Oak Street. We're looking at middle of September to the end of October for that project. And some of our other miscellaneous projects, the City Hall parking lot we have slated for next year, or for this year, the Centralia parking lot, our sidewalk projects on Washington Street and Clyde Avenue, 8th Street and Grove mid-block concrete island project, the 17th Avenue South utility boring and jacking project we've been talking about, we have slated for this year as well. Our concrete pavement patching and chip sealing and sidewalk maintenance. And our catch basin repair, and our LED flasher and detector loop projects we have in the end of summer, early fall. So,
I'll just give update. 3rd and East Jackson. They didn't call me, but Water and Light called. They've got the large overhead arm up. They'll be putting probably detectors in. Now that it's nice and cold is usually when they come around and start doing them. But they're working on that one, and the safe routes to schools, we're making progress inch by inch. Every time I think we're going to get the environmental document done, we have to do something more. Now, originally we were supposed to get it done, then they wanted 30% plans in.
Mm-hmm.
So I got 30% plans in, now they want the DNR to sign off, and the DNR won't sign off till we get 60% plans done. So once we get the plans up to 60%, we're gonna send them back in, and the DNR, and then hopefully the environmental document will be approved. We'll stake out the proposed right-of-way and start meeting with the property owners. Because we gotta talk about, we got a little leeway coming around those poles.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, there's some trees that are, gonna have to be purchased, and we'll have to meet with each property owner and work through that. So pessimistically, we may not get any sidewalk in until October, the way it's going. Optimistically, I'm hoping August, because once I get everything, the right-of-way all
Yeah.
done,
That's the thing.
the plan's all done, then they have to go to Madison, and then the feds have to look at them and then tell me it's okay. Then we can bid, and then once we bid, we send it all back in again, and they have to look it all over again before they'll approve it. and it's one the old adage, there isn't such a thing as free money
Mm-hmm.
with the federal government. There's so many strings attached. The bike racks that are gonna be bought have to make sure that they're US, made in the US. There's the highest level for wage rates, Bacon Davis, where we have to interview the property owners. So, there's a disadvantaged business, 10% of the project has to be done by, or attempted to be done by disadvantaged business enterprises, so it's gonna be a complicated little sidewalk project.
I guess so.
Mm-hmm. If it's anything like we had, was it last year or the year before?
Oh, well, the hearings, yeah,
Mhm.
that was difficult.
Yes, definitely.
Yep. Any questions by anybody on the project schedules so far anyway, that we're looking at to do? Okay, with that, we'll go to item 12, and that's to review the referral list. We don't have too many on our list. There we go. We didn't have any on there anyway tonight.
No.
No.
We only have 3 on there. With that, I guess we come to item number 13, and I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Also move.
I'll second that. Motion is second to adjourn. All those in favor respond by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. The meeting's adjourned. Thanks River Cities Community Access for televising and taping this for future showing. Good evening.